Right, before we start into another episode of DADCAST and our misadventures in parenting, support for this episode is via the brilliant Sky Q. We all know parenting is tough. Sometimes we need a little help in entertaining our little ones, and that's where Sky Q has the perfect solution for you. It's everything you love in one place, easy. They bring together all your favorite apps and content onto the Sky Q box to keep the kids entertained and give us adults a well-earned break. Saturday morning cartoons are never going to be an issue again. 11 different kids channels packed with all their favorite programs on Sky Kids, including Paw Patrol, Peppa Pig, and SpongeBob. Just make sure you don't series link Paw Patrol because it'll fill up your disc in about 2 days, and those 567 episodes that they accidentally recorded take ages to delete. So, just be careful. Keep control of the remote control. That's all I'll say. You can have a movie night with your little ones. Access over 1,000 movies for all ages in Sky Cinema, including new releases like an enchanting brand new release, The Secret Garden, starring Colin Firth and Julie Waters. There's also the entire Disney Plus range of new releases like Clouds, Onwards, and The Rocketeer, alongside Disney classics like The Lion King and Beauty and the Beast. So that's everything you and the kids love, all in one place. Easy. Head over to sky.ie, find out more, or search Sky Q now.
I endorse this product.
Dad Pod.
This is a video thing as well.
Doesn't have a name.
Podcast.
Midlife crisis.
Paddy Daddy.
Midlife crisis.
DADCAST.
That's not bad, actually. Yeah.
Right, you're very welcome along to this week's episode of DADCAST. With us this week, all the dads are here. Adrian Barry's here.
Hello.
Dave McIntyre's here.
Bonjour.
Nathan Murphy's here. How are you?
How are you?
How are you finding being beardless, Nathan?
Not great. Not great at all. Though it's starting to grow back quite quickly, I gotta say. So it's, I've almost trimmed it to this level before, but yeah, I shaved it off just over a week ago, and I won't lie, for the first 3 or 4 days, I was looking in the mirror going, "Who is that fat bastard?" I haven't been clean shaven since 2008.
Wow.
And I'm like, where does that
did you shave
neck
it off?
come from? Because we're doing Movember, because some of us care about charity, Dave.
Oof. All right. Well, some of us care about charity. We don't bang on about it the whole time. That's the difference.
Really? How would we know then that you care?
Didn't you make a lot of videos on social about charity one time and then not actually do the thing you were supposed to do? You faked a back injury. Isn't that what happened?
Well, I think you'll find the money that was promised was actually raised, yes.
Okay,
regardless
fair
of
enough.
whether the feat was achieved or not.
The money was raised.
Yeah,
Right.
and
Then what
donated, I hope.
Yes, it was handed over, yes.
Nathan, you're going to have to continue to be a fat bastard for the rest of the month, though, because you can't just grow back your beard from November. You need to, like...
I know. I now need to trim the rest of it. I've been looking online to see what I should do, how to somehow come up with something semi-decent. I'd like one of the ones that, twists and turns, but I suspect that takes months of extra growth.
Years, I'd say.
Are you watching Queer Eye too?
No, I've never seen it at all.
That's class. It's really good. But
I'm watching
John-
the Undoing. Is that what it's called? The Undone on Sky Q.
The Undoing, yeah.
Yeah, it's very good.
We started the Queen's Gambit last night.
So do we. Yeah,
Very good.
I've only watched one of them. Excellent. Highly recommended already, though. And that's this week's TV review brought to you by Murphy and McIntyre.
Well, it is a good way to start any DADcast because people are watching so much TV that they're running out of things to watch very quickly.
Yeah, it's true. We just finished Get Shorty, also on Sky Q, which I'd really recommend. I don't know why I hadn't heard about it before. It's really good, and it seems like it came to a bit of an abrupt end. 10 episodes season 1, 10 episodes season 2, and then 8 episodes season 3, which is never a great sign. But it was really good, starring our own at Big Boiler. But it's true. What the hell else are you going to do? So Queen's Gambit and The Undoing, The Undone.
Fleabag, another one that we've just finished watching, which I wholeheartedly recommend. Really, really good.
What else are you
Prime.
going to do? I mean, you could. I mean, we've just been having a conversation about Nathan refinding himself there. Like, one could. And
I find myself on a regular basis, Adrian. Don't you worry about that.
Because nobody else does.
As always, this podcast takes a slight turn for the worst.
Oh, hang on, just before you go on, Adrian. What did the baby? What was her first reaction upon seeing her dad beardless? Nathan.
Me?
Let's
Oh,
come in
gee,
there.
there was no reaction at all. I came downstairs expecting, all these things you hear about. Are you seeing these viral videos? No, there was a general shrug of the shoulders and this doesn't look very different at all. I think unless you've got one of those giant thick beards for about 10 years,
Well, my dad
it's not
tells a
really going to
story
be
when
traumatic.
he had a beard when we were very young and he shaved it off, and one of the three of us, I can't remember which one of it was, could well have been me, but I'm not sure, ran out of the room petrified at this man that they felt they had never seen before.
Yeah, I remember my dad shaving off his tash, which he must have had till I was about 12 and been a bit shocked.
Anyway, Adrian, sorry, really cut across you there. You were telling us to find ourselves.
Yeah, no. Roughly, Friday evening, I was going down. So after work, you're getting ready for the weekend, like a big weekend planned. It's all fucking kicking off. Same shit we did last weekend. Getting set, went down to the kids. Was picking up the 2-year-old, and it was literally the first. Like I just sort of clocked off, picking up the 2-year-old, and it was like somebody. And I don't want to overly dramatize this, but it was like somebody shot me in the back. I looked around, I thought, what's happened here? And I don't know, was it like a pinched nerve or a slip disc? But I was prone on the ground for about 45 minutes afterwards, and it took me about 15 minutes after that to even get up off the ground. It was
Wow.
It's still now, like 3 days later, a week, 3 days later.
Were you at home when it hit, or were you?
Yes, yeah, at home, yeah. And it wasn't even like, it was like she's 2, so she's tiny. There's no weight in her, and it was like a slightly awkward thing, but like not. It would just really shouldn't have happened. It was like bizarre, and anyway, it was absolutely agony. As I said, I don't want to overly dramatize it, other than I felt like I got shot in the back, and I've just been thinking that, like, I'm sure it's mainly down to the fact that I'm so sedate now, like
Yes.
doing nothing. I go for a walk a day if I can manage it. That's about it.
Do you remember we did a triathlon? Like that was about a week and a half ago, and
A turning point in our life.
Yeah, I remember it's like, oh, we're going to do this all the time, no matter what happens. I'll always make time for exercise.
But you're still sedate, because I was wondering that. I went for a run this morning, so since I went for it, as well to mention it, or else what's the point in going for it in the first place? Obviously, much like my extensive charity work, I like to get these things out there. But again, like the sedateness, like you're either exercising or you're sedate. It's the in-between stuff that is gone. It's the walking to the bus, walking around town on your way to work, walking out for a bit of lunch or a bit of coffee. That's all gone now. I just seem to either sit in this seat or make an effort to do some exercise. It seems like there's very little natural exercise.
What I was thinking, and it's exactly on that point, is that I think I need to start populating my calendar with stuff like, I've been thinking recently. I did a couple of meditation. I did a meditation course about 4 or 5 years ago, and it was class. And it was the sort of thing I did, and I went, "Oh, I'm going to do this. I'm just going to be part of my life forever." And then the course ended, and I never did it again. And I think I want to get back to doing some of that. I want to get to doing some yoga. I want to get to doing some stretching. I want to get to doing some regular exercises every week. And I'm thinking I'm going to start populating the calendar and just start at it. This is ridiculous. This sedate lifestyle is absolute bullshit. Like it gets you down.
Well, populating the calendar is once you've done that, you're well on the road to recovery.
Scheduling it, Dave.
Once you get that schedule in place, you don't actually have to do anything.
yeah. My schedule is so full anyway. Right?
I was going to say, you're obviously not getting any schedule.
Listen, these are lean times. These are lean times.
It did cross my mind the other night. What do the parents of teenagers do who live in the same house as their teenagers? Because their teenagers are always away.
They don't do
yeah.
anything.
Is that
Go
just
away.
it?
I would have thought.
Is that it? Like 3 or 4 times a year, if you're lucky.
Well,
we just need like to go for a lot of walks.
I was going to say something there, but I won't now.
Go on, Dave. Come on.
He looked over in the kitchen. His wife is there, and he's like, "Can I get away with saying this now when she's here?"
Well, no, she is literally 6 feet from me right now.
Come on, Dave.
Carry on. The answer to your question there is
So,
that I
so
don't
no,
know.
hang on. If we each can we get a guess each, and then if one of us is right, you can just say yes, that's it, and then you don't have to talk about it.
No, I was going to say Nathan is the parent whose children are most old, I would have thought. So maybe he's closest to being
they?
actually in that boat.
No, I have a 9-year-old.
Okay, well then you answer the question. What's the difference between a 9-year-old and a 15-year-old? They're there and they're
The
awake.
9-year-old goes to sleep at some point. There's like she's asleep.
Well, I
It's
suppose
10
it's
o'clock.
too as well.
Miles is asleep.
Do teenagers not find the time to sleep at some stage?
Teenagers up late
4 a.m.
on the internet. I mean, maybe they'll have like you get a good headphone set and I don't
Glue it
know.
to them.
3 or 4 times a year, Dave was going to go, geez, that sounds like a fairly active. That's what he was getting at.
That is one crazy gaff you live in. So how's everybody's children, which is the purpose of this podcast?
Is it? Was that ever the purpose of this podcast?
It certainly used to be the premise of the podcast.
Wow.
Nothing to report.
We had a work colleague who has recently had a baby, and I was about to, on a recent call, make the recommendation, oh, you should listen to DADCAST. And then I was like, you probably shouldn't. The DADCAST started in like when we were in a pall of despair and no one was getting any sleep. And I have had people say to me, yeah, DADCAST recommended to me. I started listening to it and it was just too negative. I was like, hey, was that bad? I haven't listened back to any of the early episodes. So you come through it, I think, is the main thing. You get to the other side at some point.
It's just
Both
real, isn't it?
parenting and the podcast.
Yeah.
Real conversations. Like that's the, you know, this negative thing. Negative.
Well, when you do get through it, which obviously myself, Jared, Adrian are probably through it. Nathan, are you still in it in a little way at the moment?
No, I've again, you've got it all wrong, Dave. Adrian is a younger child than I do.
Okay, yeah, I'm getting my timelines all wrong. Okay, so Adrian maybe is in it more than the rest of us. But when you look back on it, having come through it, does it seem less frightening now than it actually felt at the time? Or do you look back at it and loathe that time as much as you actually did when you were going through it?
Yeah, well, otherwise, why would anyone ever have another child? I think, is that not key, that you sort of forget all the...
You had one too many.
There is that.
It was just the way the evening was going.
Late Late Show was boring. Like, come on, let's have another child.
Do you find that she? I find regularly that my wife would say something like, "Oh, do you remember that? Do you remember that when the eldest lad for 6 months? Do you remember the time when he wouldn't do something or other, or like there's that we're passing on to the baby?" And I'm like, she's like, "Oh, do you remember when he used to?" If you pulled that out of a packet now, I wouldn't argued. So I've large gaps, and like the eldest fella's only 4, so it's not as if like it's not a huge bank of time. It's stuff I just cannot remember.
You should definitely buy the extra space on Google, and you are an Apple user, so get all those pictures uploaded to your phone. So once every couple of years, they send you this reminder. Do you remember when this happens? Like, no clue, but I do now. I remember seeing this. I have no recollection of it, but I definitely remember seeing it.
Yeah, I get that a lot from my wife when I'm complimenting the youngest child, going, like, isn't she great crack? Like, she's just great crack. It's a shame the lads weren't like this. She's like, they were exactly like this, and you said it. I was like, really? Because they just seem to sit around the place now all the time, just, moaning and groaning, and like they're 2 teenagers already.
Hopefully,
but no, apparently they were.
The 2 lads are out of earshot when you're saying this.
Oh yeah. No, they try and make sure they're not in the same room for any considerable length of time.
We had a weird week or so where I've talked before about how the behavior goes in phases, and I've probably come on this podcast before and talked about, we're in the midst of a golden period at the moment.
Yes.
Just incredible behavior, but it is cyclical, unfortunately. And last week has not been great. I don't know why, but to the point where you're just like, you feel like you're walking around on eggshells all the time because you're so desperately trying not to piss them off. So they don't go off on one. It must be what, like, having somebody in the house that their mood swings are so unpredictable that you, instead of trying to confront the situation, you just try and carry on without actually triggering an onslaught of abuse.
What's kicking it off?
I don't know. I think we definitely underestimate, and Nathan, you've probably articulated this better than the rest of us a few times over the last few months. We definitely underestimate the impact of the last few months on the mental health of our children. Like their lives have been completely turned upside down at times. I don't think we've grasped the effect it's had on them, and will probably continue to have on them for the foreseeable future. That I'm pretty sure that has something to do with it. The other aspect is probably that we're just really poor parenting examples, and that, maybe that's an option as well. But then it is cyclical, because in the last week it's just been great again. So I don't understand why we get these little spells, but I guess they're just little tests as parents that you just have to endure, and you come through them, and then a couple of things occur, and you look at your kids and you go, Jesus, they actually are amazing children. We are absolutely blessed to have them. This morning, for example, the driver on the way to school took a couple of major gambles that backfired traffic wise. And the driver,
that's you.
Yes. And suddenly what should have been a 20-minute journey turned into a 47-minute journey.
Oh.
And it was pretty early in the journey when it became apparent that the older guy was going to be late for school. And he's in senior infants now, and I'd say it's only the second time since he began school in junior infants that he's been late. And he wasn't impressed the first time he was late. This was about 6-9 months ago. But I had to turn around and say, I'm sorry, not only are you not going to get the 20 minutes to play football before school, but you're also actually going to be late for school, and we're going to have to go in the side entrance like we did that one time before. And I was bracing myself for, a torrent of upset, and it never came. And to the contrary, it went the other way. He could see how angry I was at myself, and I was thumping the steering wheel going, why did you go down that road? And how did you not know the traffic was going to be so bad going that direction? And he just says, do you know what? Maybe we should play games to cheer you up until we get to school.
No way.
You little legend. Like, how amazing are you? When they started playing games, yes, no game was a huge favorite on the way to school. The true or silly game, where you concoct some farcical, unbelievable story that may or may not have happened, and they have to guess whether or not what happened is true or silly. Often it could be both. And as I dropped him off, and he did have to go in via the principal, and he just didn't kick up a stink at all. So there are the moments where I go, actually, maybe you're not all that bad a parent. They are amazing. And then there are the days where you're thinking, where did it all go wrong? How have we reared this person who thinks that verbal abuse, incessant verbal abuse, is acceptable?
I think a lot of it is down to how exhausted they are, how much they've had to eat, how much they've had to drink. Like, their bodies are tiny, and the right amount of food or the wrong amount of food or no food, or like just being a little bit out of kilter, is massively worse than it would be for us who are like sitting here calcified. Nothing will change our bodies now except maybe doing a marathon. And they were completely shattered by the time the midterm break rolled around. And then the midterm break went okay, and now they're kind of back on some vaguely level, even keel.
Yeah, well, that period was coincided with the midterm break, when we were all suddenly on top of each other from one end of the day to the next, having not really had that since since late August. So I think that was a shock to the system. Thankfully, these minis have kept going. The sport has kept going. He's playing. There's a lot of football and soccer going on, and a lot of coaching. And the other younger guy has learned how to ride a bike without stabilizers, which has been a huge moment. I could actually see some parents laughing at me on the path the other day, because I was obviously beaming with pride in such a feeble way that it was very apparent to anyone who crossed our paths that this dad was as proud as punch as he cycled his first ever 50 yards without stabilizers. So it hasn't been all bad over the last couple of weeks. There's been some great moments as well. Is there a prouder moment when your kid starts riding a bike for the first time?
It's cool, isn't it?
It's right up there when they take a dump in a potty for the first time.
Or when they take a shit on the side of the road, the levels of pride there. When they cycle their bike to the end of the road to take a shit.
Are you still
I'd recommend a balance bike.
The dry shits. The balance bike is class.
I wholly recommend a balance bike. Absolutely.
And our fellow went from the balance bike directly onto the bike with no stabilizers.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's impressive.
And it was like, first he got it in January. He took it out once in January. The bike we knew it was too big for him then anyway, and that he was going to have to grow into it over a few months. And he took it out once, wasn't really that great, and didn't have a huge interest, and was flying around with the balance bike like it was Tony Hawk's as well. So it like didn't really make much difference. And then, a few months later, started getting on the bike, and they do say that it's easier if you move from a balance bike onto a bike without any stabilizers, that they can get used to it a bit easier. But yeah, milling it around and proud as punch. That in the
Yeah,
shit.
our lads at the same, straight from balance bike to regular bike. Just seemed quite easy because they don't even need to be able to cycle if they can just balance. It's genius. I did cycle to school with my kids for the first time ever last week. More stressful than I thought it would be. The health benefits maybe are there for them. I'm not sure they're there for me because of the stress of guiding them through the various housing estates. So I go a sort of back route that you can't drive normally, where there's some little cycle paths for part of it rather than the main road because it's just too tight to go down the main road. And actually, the one part of the main road we went on, there's a bus lane and there's no buses most of the time. So it's actually grand to go down that. But it turns out going through housing estates at about 8:30 in the morning, nobody's really waiting for the 7-year-old and the 8-year-old to take their time. They're just going to fly past you no matter what.
Cars, you mean?
Cars.
That's very stressful.
Well, SUVs, yummy mummies.
The other stressful part is that I'm always waiting for him to turn the handlebars into a parked car and scrape a 3 or 4 foot paint, scratching the paint as they're going by. And then, of course, you have to make the decision. Always the decision would be to leave a note, obviously. But I am waiting for that to happen where there's a gouge on some random stranger's brand new Mercedes that is going to require like a €900 bill.
Get a bit of brake fluids that covers scratches, according to one of the ads I saw on CNN in the middle of the elections.
So cover somebody else's door with brake fluid.
The scratch, covers it up. At least it'll get you out of there until the scratch emerges and you're nowhere near the vicinity.
Or you could put something on the side of the handlebars that if they do make contact with the door, it doesn't scratch a rubber barrier of some
definitely. An email this week, bath time from Al. Lads, I would appreciate if you kept this anonymous or just to Al. Al, you're welcome. I love the pod, which I'm currently horsing through, so apologies if this has come up before. It has not come up before. My recently turned 4-year-old begged me the other evening to get into the bath with him. I've never done it before, and to be honest, never even crossed my mind. After looking down at his face saying, please, 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 I decided to say yes. I thought it was best to wear a pair of boxers, as I didn't really think it would be too appropriate for my junk to be out and bobbing in the middle of the bath. I'm still in my 20s, so it's not as if it would be a 40, 45 plus ball bag freaking the kid out.
Screw you.
Nothing wrong with my ball bag, buddy. It turned out to be a great experience for both and a memory for me. He really loved the company in the bath, as he is the only child for now. Just wondering if any of you lads have done something similar or ever bathed with any of your own. Keep up the good work and love the pod. Also to note, probably my answer to his question would have been no prior to listening to this pod. Listening to you guys really made me appreciate what I have more. Stay safe. Regards, Alan. Well, thanks for the kind words.
Thank you, Alan.
Yeah.
What age was the child?
4.
4, okay. Because it is a question that's crossed my mind. Like, at what age? I don't want to use the word inappropriate because I just think that there's all sort of negative connotations.
16. Don't be doing it, you're 16-year-old.
No, but what age generally is it advised that you no longer shower with your kids, or you no longer get into the bath with your kids, or maybe there is no advice, but I'm sure there are parents that have kind of, like, after swimming, the three of us would go into and have a shower. They're 3 and 6. It's grand, but when does that no longer become something that you do? Maybe your children make that decision for you.
I think they do. Isn't that it? That they decide that I'm going to do this myself. I can, leave me alone. I'm a big man now. I'm going to look after this.
Yeah, and they're not doing it in I'm embarrassed to be with you. It's I want to do this and show that I can shower myself.
I don't think there's any problem getting into the bath with your 4-year-old junk in or junk out. Is there
No.
Oh, no. I know. I think it's it's nice and it's innocent that he almost, he considered maybe I should be wearing a pair of boxers here. But like, I've been in the band with the lads. Well, they can't now because they're getting a little bit bigger and the two of them are being there at the same time. But going back now, I would have baited with them, but like a long time ago. But there's no, I think if you're speaking to somebody who sees there being an issue with him being in the bath with his 4-year-old, I think the issue is with the other person and not with this dad in particular. He'll know eventually himself if it just doesn't feel right, I think. Or like I said, his child will tell him that, nah, this is my bath, this is my domain, stay out of here.
Do you think I could use "There's Nothing Wrong with My Ball Bag" as the episode title this week?
Well, that would be milder than some of the episode titles I'm sure that we've had up there in the past.
Nathan's turning his face up there. It's gonna appear on the website.
As some of us hurtle towards a 45-year-old ball bag, I'm taking
I mean, look,
Yeah, I don't know. Does the ball bag not need to make an appearance? And that's how like natural conversations start with maybe 4 is too young to be having any conversations, but that they're asking questions about things and you're able to explain things.
I think
how much of a ball bag explaining you want to be giving a 4-year-old, I don't know.
But isn't the whole thing about I don't know what the accepted ages are about all that stuff, but you're supposed to kind of use and have these conversations as early and as naturally as possible. So like when they're curious, talk to them about it. Because otherwise it all ends up as like the type of repressed upbringing that we all had, where nobody ever talked about anything, and like that's not great either.
Look what that did to us.
And you can explain it'll be a long time before their ball bag will resemble your 45-year-old ball bag. There'll be many good years in between.
Particularly when you're talking to your little girl.
Jesus Christ. Bloody hell.
Is it the same in your house there, whereby bath time often ends up in the same place as a game of Monopoly when we were kids? It rarely ends without someone baiting the head off somebody else.
Ours is, it sounds like torture chamber when they're getting their hair washed. Like absolutely. It was worse with the girls with the long hair because, I'm going to get kicked out of this Zoom meeting, lads.
It just said that it's going to be.
We've been upgraded.
We've been upgraded.
We got a VIP
upgrade.
there.
Woohoo!
Yeah.
It says I wasn't getting upgraded on my side, but anyway, yeah. So with the girls, it was like they just wouldn't. That you couldn't get the shampoo out of the hair without using a shower. The shower wasn't allowed, and so you'd still use the shower anyway because otherwise it's going to be 5 hours. And then suddenly the neighbors are calling the cops because like there's been 4 people murdered. That's what it sounds like, and it didn't really get that much better until recently enough.
And is there a way to prevent the fights? The row in our house usually begins when it comes to the washing the hair. We leave it to the last minute. There's always a row over whether the hose is going to be used or a jug being incredibly ineffective and far more time consuming.
Yes.
Yeah. Also, are you dipping the jug into the water?
Yeah.
Oh.
Well,
I used to do that.
To shampoo the hair up, yes. The actual rinsing of the hair will be used with fresh water.
I used to do that. Well, I used to do that until one day they were both in there and the little girl was like making this face and then she was like, oh, pee pee, pee pee. And I was like, all right. That ain't happening any longer.
Well, we've all been in the boat where there's more than a pee pee delivered during bath time, where you just see a little cloud floating by.
I don't know if we've had that. This is the type of thing now my wife would go, do you not remember?
That's right, yeah.
8 days, it cost us $2,000 to get fixed.
We're not too bad. We gave them the bath last night. I generally do it, and they're not too bad. Like so the two of them will be in the bath together, and they've like a load of little sort of toys, or whatever. And I think that if they're left at it themselves, they're much better when I'm not there. They just get on with it, and you can hear them playing away. But then obviously you can't go too far because it's pretty dangerous. And the odd time it does get a bit out of hand, he'll be splashing her, or there's some sort of a mayhem, and then before you know it, they're all at it. But who was it, Jerry? You mentioned about the warfare about the hair.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's gas. I didn't. Is that just all kids then? It's our two are the exact same. Whenever
Oh, they
Oh
hate it.
yeah.
They absolutely hate it.
we do
Well,
this,
it's to
my
the
mother
point where
used to
the
say-
entire shampoo was called No More Tears. So it's obviously is a fairly universal tear.
yeah. My mother used to think where she go back away. So you have to put the head back as far as you can. So that's what we do, back away, and it's like a game, and it gets around it frequently. But yeah,
Well, if you put the head back far enough, it wouldn't got in your eyes, would it? No. Then they put the head forward at the wrong time. Yeah. All right, the warm now for our bath is pre-bath, where they're like, not happening, not happening, not happening, not happening. And then eventually they'll get in. And an hour and a half later, I'm like, is that water coming through the ceiling that they've like splashed every bit of water, refilled the bath 4 times for the amount of times they've absolutely destroyed the bathroom?
What age can you leave them in the bath on their own and head off?
Depends on how far you're going. Glass of wine, you're grand.
What age?
Well, where are you going? Exactly. You go down to the
I
pub
just
or
like
the
to go off like it's anywhere into the cupboard. Like
Yeah.
I've been leaving them up there, like as long as you can hear some sounds, you're okay. Like it's when you realize you've been down here for 2 minutes and you haven't heard a sound. That's maybe when you need to go up and make sure that everybody's okay and that one guy isn't holding the other guy's head under the water for a 4-minute period.
It's worth saying it's an incredibly dangerous thing to do, and nobody should listen to this podcast and think that it's okay to do it in the bath unattended. It's an unbelievably dangerous thing to do.
Well, if you're leaving a toddler, yes, or a child.
So long as somebody can shout, that's fine. So long as it's like, here, listen, anything goes wrong, shout.
A 1 or 2-year-old, yeah, absolutely not.
Yeah, but like we've a 4 and a 2-year-old, and I wouldn't be dependent on the 4-year-old to let us know. That's all I'm saying.
Well, that's my concern at times is leave the 2-year-old in there. I assume that if she's in there with one of the older lads, that they will. But you just don't know. You couldn't trust them.
You just don't know.
They'd be like, what? Oh, no, I was just looking over here for the last 20 minutes.
Exactly.
Fiddling with myself.
Hey. What? I was just trying to come up with a title for that. Fiddling with myself. What? What are you doing there?
How far can you stretch yours?
Nathan, fiddling with myself.
How far can he stretch it? Let's see.
Oh, God.
Anyway, in summation for our friend Al, I'd say continue to bathe with your child for as long as it feels appropriate. It feels like it's something you should do.
If you want to get your ball bag out, get it out.
And that's not just bath time, is it, Nathan?
Just not at work. I strongly advise not at work. Nobody needs to see your 45-year-old ball bag.
Hey, I'm not in that category yet.
Oh well, sure we don't know.
We since we last gathered, we had a birthday.
Oh yes.
I'm still not in that category.
Nathan turned 30 something.
30 something. That's all that matters.
Right.
His last one, I think.
I'm in that 30 to 30 something category, not that 40 to 40 something category.
Sure, look, it's at the bottom of the slippery slope. It's very comfortable.
Mm.
Happy birthday, Nathan.
We'll see. Thanks, Adrian.
What age are you, Nathan?
39.
Oh.
What did
Because
a typical Nathan,
go on.
a typical Nathan birthday, certainly in my mind, involves a babysitter for at least one night, possibly 2, a lot of wine, a good couple of nights out on the tiles, and like general sort of indulging in all the good things.
Was that not everybody's birthday when you were like in your 20s?
Yeah, in your 20s, yeah.
Yeah, I can't remember the last time I had that sort of a birthday. Though clearly my reputation is now preceding me because both my parents and my mother-in-law bought me red wine for my birthday.
Good gift.
So can't complain about that.
And so you tried to run it off this morning, did you?
Exactly.
I started to run this morning, Nathan.
5K, just about. I was doing 5K comfortably around the time of our triathlon. And I was like, oh, the verge of death.
I went for a cycle on whatever day it was last week, Thursday maybe. and normally my cycle will be 20K. I managed 8, and it was like, oof, this isn't good. I can now break a sweat just sitting here if I want to.
What's that app? What's that app we used to use? I can't even remember the name.
Strava.
Strava.
Yeah.
Where have you gone?
Knock, 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 knock.
Got an additional person at the mic here.
How's it going?
You're
gonna
being
say
on your
hello?
best behavior.
Say hello to the Dadcast listeners.
No,
No,
you're dead right.
shake it ahead.
He's becoming
Screw
really
them.
young. Yeah.
He gets
Screw
paid
them.
by the word like his dad.
They know too much about you, and well, you know, what are you getting in return? Feck all.
Yeah, exactly. They do. They do give an awful lot back. Let's not return to the dark early episodes of negativity and
No, I'm saying they're not getting anything from our
For
listeners.
appearing here.
Oh,
Yeah.
true.
Revealing everything about their formative years.
They are. They're getting very little indeed. Only a world of hurt when they realise what their dad have been doing to them over the last few years. I have to get back to daddy duty here now.
Okay, well, look, I think we've done enough damage to our relationships for one day.
Yes.
So that's another Dadcast in the books. We'd love to hear from you. You can rate us on iTunes. You can send us an email, dadcast@offtheball.com, or you can tweet at dadcastpod. We will see you next week, and thanks very much for being part of our journey.